I'm gonna steal Reyna because I need to talk to her about something.
Oh, what's up?
Private man business.
I'm going. Angel, you have a car here, right?
Yes.
Ugh.
If you're tired, we can have this conversation another day because it's a bit.
I don't give a fuck. I am. Wait. It's only 7:30.
Only, she says.
It is 7:30, so I'm actually going to sleep. Love you both. Good night.
Good night, dog.
Good night, Andrew. Anyway, you're doing grass strats.
I just love this car. I don't know what you want. Depth perception.
Yeah.
Depth
Yeah,
perception.
yeah.
Depth perception.
Yep,
Depth
mhm.
perception.
Yep.
Good night, Eden.
$940?
Well, she was rattling a bit.
She's a pain in my
Plus,
dick.
you did just drove that into a corner, so.
Who's all still awake anyways?
Me and Dawson.
I ran in black that car.
Hey, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Can I put armor on this, the R34?
Can?
I don't care if it slows it down, dog. This repair bill's insane.
Oh, do you want armor on it? I think Benny's has one.
Not right now, but yeah.
Alright, we'll do it tomorrow.
Where you want to go?
That's a good question. Criminals, crazy.
Howdy.
What up, dog?
Nothing much. What's up with you two?
Just chilling.
Alright. Alright, take care.
You too.
Stay out of trouble. Head out that way.
360.
You tried.
It's snowy.
Yeah, we should have made it easier for you.
want a warehouse district?
Yeah. We can park across from it so we don't get, like, you know, bothered. Just in case people start hitting shit and then there's a whole hostage thing and yeah. How familiar are you with the shit I've had to do with?
With what?
Just in general. I don't know what Callahan's told you.
Nothing. Like with the, I know a little bit about Adora stuff just based off of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Ooh, band-aids. But I don't know anything else.
I don't get too far from the car, I'll just chill here. Over here, fine. How involved were you with some of the shit that was around, like Juniper and all that kind of crap?
None. That bitch triggered me, so I'd stay away from her.
Good. I was not so fortunate. When I got to the city, I didn't really know anyone. Like, I came here for school. I was just some school kid. Still am, technically. I was studying psychophysics, which is basically the study of how the human brain interacts with sensory input. Sounds, color, taste, all that. That's how I met her. And I fell in with her crew for a while. Standard stuff, you know, you go hang out, you fish and whatever, and when they go do all their secret shit, it's whatever. You go do your own shit. But eventually I fell in with the darker shit that they were dealing with. I won't go too deep into the details, but well, her father was effectively trying to kill her or bring her home, or both, dependent on the mood swings and the days. And, you know, naturally she was not about that. She wanted to live her own life, which, you know, I'm always supporting of someone running their own lives and not being run by their parents and all that shit. So I tried to help out. It got worse. Every day just seemed to get darker. There was a man, his name was Edwin. It turned out he was working for her father as an informant, monitoring, providing information about the people closest to her, about how much they knew, all that sort of stuff. He was a forced informant. You know, people went after his family. So I can understand him being in a rock and a hard place, because at the same time he was still friends with a lot of us. one day he decides to tell us all this. And that kind of kickstarted everything for me. I wasn't involved in what happened to him. I was specifically kept away from it. But all I know is he went out to the wind farms and he didn't come back. This left a spot in the ranks, so to speak. The next confidant, the next best friend. At that point, I was in over my head. But she was really the only person in the city I knew. That group of friends were the only people I knew. So despite the fact that I knew I was in over my head, I did what I could to look after them. I've always done that with people I care about. But after Edwin passed, or, well, disappeared, they needed someone else. Someone else to keep an eye on them. So one fateful day, I was out walking. And the next minute, I'm out here. In one of the warehouses across the way. We're not entirely sure how long I was out there. There's a period of several hours on either side that are unaccounted for, but it was at least a day. And I was thoroughly convinced to take over from where Edwin had failed. To provide information for the sake of my own life and those that I cared about. I said no. And much like Ed found out recently, torturers don't like when you just say no. They took my eye. They took my finger. I'll spare the rest of the details, but we all have our scars, is all I'll say. That's why you see me occasionally rub the eye. I still get phantom pains in the around my eye socket. Yeah, I still feel the teeth on the pliers that they used grinding against the bone of my eye socket. Mhm.
You said gross?
I try not to let it bother me. Been doing well. You know, I've only had, well, now the 2 episodes in 6-7 months, so I count that as a win. Regardless, eventually they got bored with the fact that I wasn't taking yes, I wasn't doing what they wanted. Frustration, sloppiness. Eventually I managed to slip through my binds when they took a break. I got used to the rotations. I know who would be coming, how long it would take. They only sent a few. They didn't want to send an entire security team to do with me. And I did what I had to.
What doing?
Uh-huh.
I was the only one that walked out of that warehouse. Walked is a generous term. There wasn't many, just a couple. The officers I talked to after the fact said I was well within my rights to do what I did. But I still see it every day. The surprise, the shock. It's not. And like I said, I don't know your history, so I don't know if you've dealt with this, but it's not easy to. You don't forget what it's like to watch someone die. Anyway. They found me not far from here. Crashed out behind a middle of buttfuck nowhere sandy trailer. Like, barely alive, barely breathing. I don't remember how long I was in the hospital after that. Had like 3-4 surgeries to get everything dealt with. Physical hell I can deal with. I can tolerate the scars, I can tolerate the pain. It's the guilt, the knowing of what you've done, and the acceptance of knowing that every day after you will see it, hear it, experience it. That's what I've been partially experiencing. But after that, it was pretty clear that even if I walked now, I was still going to be targeted. So I doubled down. Whether it was an inane need to seek revenge or to find an outlet for the anger, or just some part of me that wanted them to hurt. And like I said, I stepped to the edge of the abyss and I stared. And I stared way too long. The things I found when I doubled down, I will never be able to forget.
Ah, fuck.
I wouldn't look at it now. I don't want you going to bed with that. When you're ready, you let me know.
Okay.
And I will warn you, it's not pretty in any form of the imagination. It's how I began to really process how far a human is willing to go in order to profit, or in order to extend their legacy, or succeed where others have failed, when they have no morals. Juniper's father did horrific things. Even to her. We all had our issues with her. I'll be the first to admit it. But no one deserved what was done to her. What was done to any of them. And so, we set out to crush that. We tried, at least, to put a stop to it. It was just hell after hell. And it got to everyone. Everyone that touched her just poisoned everything. And then they committed what I see as the most grievous offense to me. They went after my sister. I have 4 sisters and 2 brothers, mother and father. All perfectly normal human beings, as far as you would consider them. But one of them, Madeline, she's a... Well, she would tell you, she's the odd one out. She always had really bad sensory issues, which is why I studied it. And being the first child, and the last of 7, my parents had no idea how to deal with it. None of us did. So we all rallied around her to try and help her find her a way to cope. And it brought us together closer as a family, but it also meant that when someone went after Madeline, the response was perhaps a little over the top. And this was no different. They didn't bother going after me. They went after the one person in my family they knew would get a response out of me. And on top of that, Juniper mentioned it to one of our surgeons, who has now left the city for reasons unknown, Elliot Powers, about it. And the man himself decided that he was going to take it upon himself to go find my sister. I don't really know what the man was thinking. We're not that close. But something possessed him to do that. So my hand was forced. I had to go after Elliot. And after my sister. Got to Elliot eventually. Stopped him in the airport, sent him home, told him to not overstep. I think he got the message. I worked with the local authorities to track down my sister, because as much as I wanted to hurt people, as much as I wanted to put them through the same hell that I had been put through, I couldn't do that in front of my sister. I couldn't let her see that. I didn't want her to see... I didn't want her to see what I had become in her absence. And at that point, I was already on the outs with Juniper. We were going our separate ways, and things just weren't working out. Juniper and I had made a plan, and this is perhaps my lowest moment, to contact one of the people in city that was still around in the city, sorry, that would take her to her father, and I would go get my sister. And I was willing to trade Juniper's life for my sister in a heartbeat. But then, of course, she went and told Elliot, and that forced my hand, and I had to abandon that. Of course, then Juniper, being the dumb bitch she is, went ahead and did it anyway while I was gone.
Turtle, thank you for the raid.
It took my sister 3 months to speak another human word. For a while, she was estranged from us. She internalized everything. She loved to paint. That was her coping method with her sensory issues. But for those 3 months, she didn't even pick up a paintbrush. And I got her home to the family, but I knew it was best that I was away from that. As much as I had always been there for her, it would be best if I wasn't around. So I came home to here, only to find that Juniper was in some form of head trauma-induced coma. And when she woke up, she had no recollection of me at all. Nothing. Not a single thing that I'd ever done. No form of memory, no form of connection, nothing. As far as she was concerned, she'd never had an issue with her father. And that was the last straw. That broke me for a good while. Because everything I had done ultimately did end up with her father dying, yes. That happened after the fact. Everything I had done, everything I had endured and suffered through was ultimately scrapped. She got to go off and have another life. with absolutely no memory of the trauma and the hell and the horrors that we both committed and endured, while I was left to pick up the pieces of both my family and myself. To pick up the pieces of the friendships that I had left to waste, that I had abandoned because I was so focused on trying to fix this. Trying to protect the first person who ever showed me any ounce of kindness here. And with her departing, I had nothing again. I mean, sure, I had all the new friends I'd made at the hospital, and all the friends that I'd made through other friends, and all that. But I didn't even have a fucking house. Like, she, in some fucking manic panic episode, decided to up and sell the house that we'd bought together without telling me. And then, suspiciously, the new guy that she was hanging out with, that definitely didn't really do much, suddenly had a house in the hills. I lost purpose for a long time. I still kind of do. Threw myself into work. Fortunately, I'm not the. I don't really have an addictive personality, so I don't drink or I don't smoke. Barely even on social situations. But after that, for a long time, I was just surgeon. That's it. Because I didn't know how to be anything else. I forgot how to be a human. Just, I felt like some kind of machine that I turned myself into to deal with everything. Obviously, that's the medium version of the story, saving all the unnecessary details that don't really add to it, but that's what hit me when I was out at the diner. I remember looking out towards the hills and just seeing nothing. I saw those wind farms, and I remember Edwin and where are the wind farms? Well, they're out in Sandy, and where was I found? Out in Sandy, and then it all just came back in a loop. And then I woke up in the hospital. My phone full of messages from people that I don't remember getting. And I know no one's talked to me about it. I don't know if people are not wanting to mention it or what, but that's me.
He said I need the TLDR. What do you expect my response to be?
Nothing. I don't really expect any form of response, really. I think I need to talk about it. And no one's really checked on me except you.
I tend to do that a lot. I've noticed.
Yeah, I noticed it too.
It's that hard. Oh. You want a distraction?
I don't remember what I want right now.
Well, when you figure it out, let me know.
I think I just needed to get it off my chest. I don't really talk about it.
Yeah.
I know that was kind of a dump, but
I'm used to it. I dump on everybody, so it's fine. You know, the only time that I ever dealt with Juniper was after she's... I think she saved my life, but I just don't remember because I wasn't awake or aware of what was going on, but... 2 days before Jericho died, I was stabbed and dropped off a waterfall because of the way that cops acted in a pursuit. to a gang.
Mhm.
I got really mad. They robbed me of my shit and dropped me off a waterfall and stabbed me. And I woke up. I couldn't talk. My lungs were kind of fucked up. Ironic. And I asked for pain meds. Because just like even something. Because I was in so much pain. And she said no. Because I wasn't allowed to have opioids, so she said no, that I couldn't have anything. And it took Ed asking a local doctor to give me pain meds. And while I'm lying in the bed after being talked to, tortured and dropped off the waterfall, she was talking about how she had just been tortured 3 days prior and was held captive for 3 days.
Mhm.
I remember being so mad. Maybe it had been the day prior that she'd just gotten out of the hospital. Or not even out of the hospital. She was technically supposed to be upstairs. In a bed.
Yeah, she had a habit of doing that.
And she treated me. And I remember just being so frustrated because she, one, treated me. Which I guess was fine in the end. But I remember being so mad that she had the audacity to say that she was in pain and suffering, which I didn't know all the details, so I couldn't really go off of it. But I was literally laying there in the most pain one of the most pain I've ever been in a really long time. Unable to move, intubated, even though I wanted to just rip it out of my throat like I always do. And she was just talking about how she was kidnapped, held captive for 3 days, etc., etc. I was so mad.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you right now, you don't have to worry about sugarcoating it, because I also hate her, and so does everyone else I know, so...
Oh, I'm not gonna sugarcoat Jack at all. She annoyed the fuck out of me.
Yeah, you and everyone else.
Biggest pick-me girl I've ever met.
Yeah, without being... too obtuse about it. It feels like her connection kind of makes everything else feel less. It's like, oh, it was just Juniper's shit. Like, he's fine. And I don't want people to think like just because she's connected to it, you know, like yeah, she was, as you said, the biggest pick-me girl in the city. But the shit that the people around her went through is still real, and I don't want her existence connecting to that to cheapen it.
That's valid. I'm not a stranger to violence. Picked an occupation where all it takes is one person to turn around with a gun or a knife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was kidnapped and tortured a few times in this city. I guess you could say tortured, but it was more like attempted execution. I was actually kidnapped and tortured for a few hours a few years ago. And then left in Sandy to be found as well.
Mm-hmm.
At the abandoned motel. They made me text 911 as I was actively bleeding out of my diaphragm from a knife wound. With completely broken hands from a baseball bat. With my hand also bleeding from the letter K that they carved into it. All because I had a bad attitude and I got somebody fired from their job. I grew up the opposite of what you did. My house was dirty, unkept, filled with cigarette smoke. The walls were basically brown. They used to be white. My father had a whiskey bottle tucked next to him at all times. My mother never stopped smoking a cigarette. He liked to use the whiskey bottle as a weapon. Was that his fist or his foot? With boots on. Workman boots, because he was a construction guy, so he had the steel toe shit. I learned how to set my own bones really quickly. And I learned how to staple my skin together. So I didn't bleed out. I was 5. Maybe even younger. I was the oldest of 3. I had 2 younger brothers. My youngest brother, Grayson, he was innocent. He was younger than me. Still managed to keep his spirit even though we were growing up in this dark, terrible place. Jonah, my middle brother, had my father's temperament. He liked to go hand in hand with my father a lot. It got ugly fast. And a lot of the time, I would shut them in the closet. And my dad went on his benders. And I would sit outside of it. So that they were out of sight, out of mind. I learned very quickly that drunk men don't really look too far into things when they can't see it. So if I sat in front of it, then I would get the brunt of it all. that part of the carpet in that room. It was rough. No matter how many times my dad told me to clean it up after he made me bleed all over it, it just never cleaned up. I have a lot of bones that didn't particularly set right. We grew up with the words that if we ever went to a doctor or told a teacher or a cop, it would even get worse. And being children, we believed him. I got very good at reading people. Demeanors, attitudes, the way people walk down the hallway. What sign would mean what? And over time, I was able to compartmentalize it all. My father was a very straightforward guy. He didn't care about us. He didn't care that he had kids. He cared about the next whiskey bottle, make sure it was still in the house. His other one was halfway gone. Very simple lifestyle in a way. There's no time to worry about anything other than when the next punch was going to be thrown. Or when Dad was going to get home from his endeavors. He lived two different lives. My family grew up in Ohio. His work trips, quote unquote, were in Chicago, where I didn't know it until 3 years ago. But he had 2 other sons with another woman. Technically, my mother was the second woman. He spent more time at my house. Because he dead ass hated that he had a daughter. And that I was the oldest in this family. He definitely wanted to kill me, but he just didn't want to deal with the after effects. When I was 14. So, 2012. my brother got really sick of it all. Stood in the kitchen and lit the house on fire. I walked out to see him there, but he had poured gasoline everywhere. He trailed it down the hall, up the stairs. Supposedly, I was the only one that made it out. There's a reason that my body has 75% of burns on it. There's a reason I don't like hospitals. I grew up being told that it was going to cause me more pain to be in one. It was going to be worse for me if I went, and then I actually did go at 14 years old, where they had to remove burned skin to find the new skin for a month straight. And they were terrible at it and didn't numb me enough because my pain tolerance is immense, given what I've gone through, and it was hell. There's a reason that when Callahan met me, I refused to do anything that she told me when it came to taking care of myself. Ten years later, winter of 2021, I had just met my brothers from Chicago, because when my parents died in the fire, I came to Sandy to live with my uncle, who was also an alcoholic. Not abusive, just didn't watch me, and I was able to do whatever I wanted. As a angsty, traumatized teenager. I spent a lot of my time smoking weed, the works, sleeping with people that I went to high school with, etc. Moved out at 18. I don't remember much of the years after that until I came across my brothers. Went to find Terry, my uncle. He used to be a cop here forever ago, but that was way before your time.
Mm-hmm.
He got his life together, stopped alcoholism. We were doing a Christmas party 2 years ago, from really soon, actually. And my father walks in. It was called Salieri's at the time. We had invited a bunch of friends, even an underground doctor at the time that I was really close with, because I was doing criminal stuff and getting shot and being a stupid bitch. Running from Natalie Wynn and Theo Quinn and Alyssa Jericho, actually. Casey Watts. Doing ATM robberies or getting in a shootout because they stole my car. I was a lost kid. And at this Christmas party, my dad walks in. He still has a tool belt around his waist. Stupid leather jacket. Smells like cigarettes. Work boots. And he walks up to my brother, Oliver. half brother I didn't know I had, and so I was talking to him, and I'm frozen in the spot. So I thought he was dead. I was told he was dead. The Ohio police did not do their job. And somehow he lived. And I don't really know how. He never explained. But he spent the next month trying to kill us. He would lure us out and one by one use Terry to draw us out. He still had some grip on Terry after all these years. Some kind of leverage. On January 3rd, 2022, he kidnapped us and brought us right down the street, actually, to the docks. What is it, Catfish View? Something like that? Yeah. Brought us to that boathouse. He zip-tied me and Terry. He knocked Oliver out with chloroform over his face. A rag. Brought him into the boathouse. And Alyssa Jericho had been patrolling in the area and watched us. So she comes flying down the hill with a few other cops in tow. And they managed to stop it before it could get any worse. But we all refused to go to the hospital. Big shock. And that night, I found Oliver collapsed in the bathroom. Dying. From his heart giving out due to working overdrive or something to do with the chloroform. It exhausted his heart, something like that. And he died that night in the hospital. And then started my wasting away era of riding on a bicycle through the city. Wanting to suffer and hurt because I couldn't go to prison. My father was there. Couldn't do anything. I had to sit and wait for him to get out of jail. Knowing that I was probably gonna die when he did. Not to mention the night of the Christmas party, he attacked us all with a hammer. And I had to shoot him. And I would do it again if I had to. When it was getting really bad, and I was very close to completely wasting away, I was skin and bones. It had been 3 weeks, something like that. It had been a really long time. I was stepping out of my car as it broke down. And a local sideswiped me. And I was knocked on the ground. And I couldn't get up. My body had given up. I was so drained that I couldn't. And of course, AJ's the one that responded to the scene. Took one look at me. Brought me to the hospital. And then made me promise that I was going to stay at her house. She force-fed me food. Made sure I ate every day. Slowly. Enough to build myself up again. She looked at somebody who was so far broken from everything that's gone on in their life and gave her a chance. Through everything. My dad finally got out of jail. He was trying to contact us all. He had known he killed Oliver, and he was very proud of it. Oliver had been a doctor. He was his prized kid. Oldest boy of his other family. He was very fucking proud of having a doctor for a son. One day Oliver decided that enough was enough and he wasn't going to go with his father's wishes, and he had me ransack a car so that the police would show up so he could evade them and go to jail and lose his job. That's exactly what he did. My dad killed him for it. When my dad got out of jail after killing Oliver, he wanted to meet on Calafia Road. We said sure. We had Tom Ford in the hills watching. We had AJ with us, my Uncle Terry, me, and my father. I think Watts was up there too. There was a bunch of people in the hills watching. We were just talking. And me being myself got a little mouthy with my dad because I was sick of it. I was angry. I was pissed off. Usually I was a very quiet person. I knew that if I said anything it would probably get worse. But I was sick of it. My father's last moments standing on that dirt road were looking me in the face, punching me twice, pulling out a gun and aiming it straight at me, but before he could pull a trigger, AJ shot him down. He used to tell me all the time that he should have strangled me as a baby. That I was worthless. That I would amount to nothing, and I would be nothing, because the fact that I was born was a mistake. 14 years while he pounded the shit out of me, I had to listen to that. So AJ took us out of Los Santos after that. After I had gotten tortured by a different person and made him lose his job. Which is already what I told you. We went to Brooklyn for a few months. I got my record expunged in New York. I started a mini cadet phase in Brooklyn. After a month and a half, I came here to this city. And I enrolled in cadet phase. wanting to be different. I watched AJ, Natalie Wynn, and Theo Quinn save somebody, myself, who was just spiraling in this dark circle of their life where it was just moment after moment and time after time where they wouldn't get a break. They gave me a shot. So I became a cop to help other people and pass it on. AJ helped me a lot through my cadet phases and even as a trooper and onward. It was a big slap in the face when I became a lieutenant and I turned around to ask her for advice and I had no one there, so I've been navigating it alone. She saved me in a way that I don't think I could ever repay. This month is particularly hard because she had been suffering from heart failure. And because she kept going on duty, because she kept pushing herself, when I met her she had 5 years, then 1 year, until December 3rd of 2022 where she had a month. And we got married knowing that she was probably gonna die very soon. This month last year, I just remember being back in a dark space. Being brave for her, but also realizing that I was probably going to end up wasting away by the end of the month. And I had just gotten sergeant. But it really didn't matter to me anymore. I was very tired of fighting. And once again, nobody was noticing that I was slowly wasting away watching my fiance die. Except Callahan. Callahan was my best friend through that all. AJ got very weak. Very sick. She struggled a lot. She kept putting herself on duty and getting shot because time it was LSR, VK, and all of them, and we got shot all the time. We got married December 20th. And we went to her favorite spot. And we were just sitting there laying together. She stopped breathing in my arms. I tried CPR a few times. I got nothing. There was no EMS. I didn't want to wait for a cop to get all the way up there and then go all the way down because nobody patrols in the county anymore back then. So I called Callahan, threw her in my car, and rushed to pillbox. Because back then we only had pillbox. Callahan saved her enough to tell me that she didn't have much longer. And the next day I decided to drown myself in work.